We live in a world where the mismanagement of globalization and the disinterest of political elites to the concerns of ordinary people have triggered a populist tidal wave across the world. The emerging populism contains a strong xenophobic component, feeding on hate, mistrust and bigotry of religious minorities. Combined with the power vacuums caused by the decades of conflict in the Middle East and Northern Africa, fertile ground has been provided for the proliferation and violent groups seeking political power under the guise of an ideology purporting to confer religious legitimacy for audacious crimes. Indeed, Islam and Christianity in particular, preaching love and peace towards their neighbors, are being unscrupulously instrumentalized to fuel unspeakable crimes and hate campaigns. In this regard, the Geneva Center for Human Rights Advancement and Global Dialogue organized this side event on March 15th, entitled Islam and Christianity, the Great Convergence, working jointly towards equal citizenship rights. It was held at the United Nations office in Geneva during the 34th session of the UN Human Rights Council, with the support of the permanent missions of Algeria, Pakistan and Lebanon, and of the permanent observer mission of the Sovereign Order of Malta.
We need to try to capture the high ground. That means trying to recall these two great ancient religions, the teachings that both of us telling the same story of the creation of one humanity under one God.
The objective of this side event was to promote equality in citizenship rights by validating religious diversity and focusing on the great convergences between Islam and Christianity based on the commonalities of their basic values. It also aimed to study the alternatives to identify a common strategy that addresses the issues of religious discrimination, fanatism and xenophobia, which have worsened in several countries in Europe, Asia, Africa, the Middle East and North America.
I am horrified by the barbaric violence committed by groups who claim to serve Islam. Daesh, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, and similar groups in our countries and in Europe are abusing Islam and gravely destroying its values, its cultures, and its civilization. Obviously, it is not enough for us to denounce their action and declare that their claim to represent any form of Islam is unfounded and unacceptable. They are from our societies, they have been to our schools, they have grown in our midst, and it is up to us to do what it takes to protect our young from them, to isolate them and actively cooperate with others in the world to defeat them in our countries and in the rest of the world.
Daesh and all terrorist groups will, in the end, be defeated. I think we have got to recognize that the manner in which they are being fought for the moment is not perfect at all, because we are addressing much more the symptoms than the real reasons why these people exist.
Only states that are based on the rule of law, only states that ensure equal citizenship can guarantee that people live together in peace.
Theological arguments contrasting God-given laws and human-made principles, such as the ones embodied in the Universal Declaration, lost through the years much of their prominence, even if they did not lose all their appeal. Many believed that differences could be transcended by the affirmation that human rights are derived from the very humanity and dignity of the human person. Natural theology in Christian thought and the Quranic notion of al-fitrah, natural disposition of human nature, seemed to bridge those differences.
And there is indeed a convergence of the language. There's a convergence of the holy books so dynamically that we're discovering that some of the so-called heresies, such as is Jesus the Son of God? Is Allah the God of the Bible? The Trinity and all these forbidden concepts can actually be bridged, and they are what I would call deadly misunderstandings. Surah 5:48 said, "He is testing you, what He has revealed to you. So compete in doing good, and you will return to God, and He, God, will clarify the matters which you disagreed." So this is my hope, that you and I together will help clarify, with Allah's help, the matters which we once thought we disagreed.
Through the combination of the moral authority of these two leading world religions as a core group representing more than half of humanity, it is expected that improvements can be achieved towards greater equality of citizenship rights for minorities, and the implementation of United Nations Human Rights Council Resolution 16/18, entitled Combating Intolerance, Negative Stereotyping and Stigmatization of and Discrimination, Incitement to Violence and Violence Against Persons based on Religion or Belief.
Religious pluralism and civic rights were the core pillars of Muslim nation, the Ummah. Under Islam, Prophet Muhammad has established a pluralistic society in which citizenship and equal rights were granted to all people, regardless of their religious beliefs and practices. The covenants of Prophet Muhammad with the Christians of his time reflect egalitarian democratic partnership between Muslims and Christians. Islam emphasizes social justice, individual freedom, and social equality. This leads us to emphasize tolerance as an essential value in which Islam is based and as a way of living.
And to reach out to interfaith and interdialogue amongst the world, whereby we unify our values and we go back to the roots of understanding that this is a way to drive peace and prosperity and coexistence.
While I would maintain the primacy of political and economic factors, it is true that in many cases these factors have been submerged by a poisonous religious and cultural rhetoric. Hence, the immediate challenge in such cases is to urgently counter the rhetoric of prejudice, of difference, and of exclusion. We should respond to this challenge by resolutely engaging in rights-based discourse, drawing upon universal principles embodied in Christianity and Islam, and indeed many other religions.
These challenges can all be compressed in the concept of action to promote equality of citizenship rights, to build a culture of peace and dialogue of civilizations.
We are very ashamed that some countries actually discriminate refugees based on religion, and particularly that they say you are not welcome because you are a Muslim to our Christian country. We are very ashamed, and we hope that this will not be what we will see in other parts of Europe or other parts of the world, whether it is in the name of this religion or in other religions.
This is our task, to counteract, but also to show that the true faith has another face, and that we believe in one God, and therefore we also believe that God created the whole and one humanity, and we have to live together.
The realization of such convergence can be achieved by enabling Christian and Muslim leaders to have a stronger role in convening summits to consider underemphasized and newly discovered common ground, and frank discussions on societal issues to help foster interreligious understanding between various religious groups. In addition, the arrangement of interreligious events in mosques and churches also enables believers to gain insights into the practice of the other faith. Solutions should aim at bringing out the great convergence between Islam and Christianity, and at identifying common fundamental human rights.
As the Order of Malta works in 120 countries around the world, we, by definition, work with Muslims, with all other religions, and for us it is extremely important to participate in the to contribute, let's say, to the understanding amongst Muslims and Christians, and also other religions, of course. One of the Order of Malta's most moving experiences in interfaith cooperation is in Lebanon, a country of 17 different officially recognized religious communities, where veiled Muslim nurses in our clinics proudly wear the cross of the order on their chests. This is a picture that by itself constitutes our main response to fanatism and extremism, while illustrating the need to translate our good words into action.
The Muslim Spain and the Crusades are the most noted examples of not a clash between Christians and Muslims, but a mutual exchange of culture and harmony.
Both groups believe in the one God, and that really matters in a rampantly secular world. They have much scripture in common, and they share deep spiritual truths about this life and the hereafter. All this matters more than details of dogma. We must respect each other's beliefs, rituals, and festivals, and be ready to learn more about each other. Knowledge, tolerance, and goodwill must be the weapons to overcome the ignorance and prejudice peddled by the media and the internet.
So in recent years, we've seen a rise of a talk of populism. The people have spoken. This is very dangerous. We saw this in the 1930s. We see it today in the United States, and even, alas, in my own country. Minorities were crushed in the name of the people. But we need to protect the independence, the dignity of every person in their pursuit of the truth, knowing that it is the stranger, the one who is different, who has something to teach me.
It was a beautiful step, I think, first of all, because we spoke with great honesty about the challenges we face, but also with great hope. And I think on occasions like this, we discover that we have much support to give each other. We encourage each other in a situation which some people think is hopeless. So I think it was a wonderful next step forward, and I'm very grateful to have been here.
In addition, to consolidate the view of the Christian and Muslim religions as vectors of peace, the primary outcome of the side event is the adoption of an agenda for a world conference enlisting all religions, creeds or other value systems to enhance equal and inclusive citizenship rights.
As mentioned during our meeting, the ultimate goal in the long term is to ensure equal citizenship rights for all, the very notion of faith-based minorities being replaced by that of one among many social components of diversity, merging with many others, and which, when combined with commonality of aspiration, define the contemporary identity of every nation.
If Islam and Christianity, which represents more than half of the world population, decide to join forces to promote equal citizenship rights for all people, including what we call minorities across the world, Christian minorities in the Middle East, Yazidi minorities in the Middle East, Muslim minorities in Myanmar or in Europe. If we join our forces to promote equal citizenship rights, then perhaps we won't need to refer to minorities anymore. Minorities will, religious minorities in particular, will just become one of the features of diversity.
And there are so many things where they can go together rather than dividing. I mean, so the role of religion is bringing people together. I mean, to create, that kind of peace and harmony between the followers, rather than dividing them. By some differences.
The Geneva Center for Human Rights Advancement and Global Dialogue plans to promote this conference in the coming year. as a concrete follow-up to the discussions initiated during this March 15th side event.
This is going to be the first step towards achieving greater goals in the future, because at the end of the day, we belong to the same family, the humanity, and we have no other planet to live in and to run away from here. So I think between these two great religions, where they share values, peace, love, we could achieve a lot of things. And thank you so much for being with us, and God bless you guys. Thank you.